Whitmer threw out her prepared remarks and revealed, for the first time publicly,
Political bear nation ready to dive, where opinions spark and the debates thrive. Hold on tight.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's Brown Chubby Bear from Political Bear Nation. This video is the final installment in our 5-part series on the top 5 Democratic nominees for 2028. So far, I've covered AOC, Pete Buttigieg, J.B. Pritzker, and Josh Shapiro. If you missed any of those episodes, don't worry about it. Check out the link to the playlist in the description below, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Now, let's dive into Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Whitmer was born in Michigan, and both public service and healthcare was part of her upbringing. Her mother served as Michigan's Assistant Attorney General, and her father was a top executive at Blue Cross Blue Shield. That kind of explains why healthcare was a consistent focus throughout her political career. She got a communications degree from Michigan State and originally wanted to be a sports broadcaster for ESPN, but that changed after an internship with State Representative Curtis Hurdle Sr., who introduced her to politics at a time when bipartisanship was still possible. Back in 1993, Michigan's House was split evenly, 55 Democrats, 55 Republicans, and the two parties shared power. Back then, it wasn't considered treason to work across the aisle. That's the political culture Whitmer came up in. After law school, she practiced law in Detroit and served as chair of the East Lansing Transportation Commission. She has a blended family with 2 daughters, one of whom is publicly out as gay, and 3 stepsons, something that makes her very relatable to a lot of American voters. She's also financially well off, with an estimated net worth of $3 million. She's been transparent with her disclosures. There's nothing shady there. She's just a disciplined investor. Still, in this political climate, any kind of wealth gets noticed by progressives. So it's not like she's a billionaire like J.B. Pritzker, but it's worth pointing out. Whitmer's political career starts in 2000 when she was elected to the Michigan House of Representatives. She later served in the state Senate, becoming the first woman to lead a caucus as a Democratic minority leader from 2011 to 2015. One of her biggest achievements was helping expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act, giving over 600,000 people access to health care in the state of Michigan. But one of her most powerful moments came in 2013 during a debate over an extreme anti-abortion insurance bill proposed by Republicans. Whitmer threw out her prepared remarks and revealed, for the first time publicly, that she had been raped in college. She explained that under this bill, she wouldn't have been able to afford an abortion.
I rise in opposition to the so-called Citizens Initiative before us that would require Michigan women to pay for a separate insurance rider to cover abortions, regardless of the circumstances surrounding their pregnancy. As a legislator, a lawyer, a woman, and the mother of 2 girls, I think the fact that rape insurance is even being discussed by this body is repulsive, let alone the way it has been orchestrated and now shoved through the legislature. I have a lot more prepared remarks here, but I think it's important for me to just mention a couple things. We read a letter from a woman named Jenny Lane when it first became clear that this legislature was going to move forward on this issue, in an effort to try to give a face to the women that you are hurting by moving this forward. I believe her letter is going to be read here on the floor again, and I implore you to listen. Because there are people in this chamber who've lived through things you can't even imagine. I have a colleague who I was trying to encourage to tell his story, but he's still grieving. But it was a planned pregnancy that went awry and required a D&C. And I started to think about that, and I thought, I can't push one of my colleagues to share a tough story if I'm not brave enough to share one of my own. And so I'm about to tell you something that I've not shared with many people in my life. But over 20 years ago, I was a victim of rape. And thank God it didn't result in a pregnancy. Because I can't imagine going through what I went through and then having to consider what to do about an unwanted pregnancy from an attacker. And as a mother with 2 girls, the thought that they would ever go through something like I did keeps me up at night. I thought this was all behind me. You know how tough I can be. The thought and the memory of that still haunts me. If this were law then, and I had become pregnant, I would not be able to have coverage because of this. How extreme does this measure need to be?
Republicans still passed it. She called it rape insurance because it forced women to pre-buy abortion coverage in case they were assaulted. Years later, as governor, she signed the bill that repealed it. She said, "It's kind of a stunning full circle moment. These fights are worth having, and they're winnable, even if they take longer than they should." That's the kind of long game politics a lot of people forget. In 2018, Whitmer was elected governor of Michigan, winning 53% of the vote. Since then, she's expanded the Healthy Michigan Plan, now covering over 1 million people in the state. She signed legislation codifying the Affordable Care Act into state law. She increased Medicaid reimbursement rates and expanded access to telehealth and dental care. She also launched Healthy Moms, Healthy Babies, which addressed racial disparities in maternal and infant mortality. Michigan was one of the first states to offer Medicaid coverage for doulas, and in 2022, she extended postpartum Medicaid to 12 months. And then there's RX Kids, a first in the nation citywide cash allowance program for pregnant women and new parents in Flint, Michigan. This innovative program gives mothers $1,500 during pregnancy, $500 a month for the baby's first year, and up to $7,500 in direct support per family. No strings, just trust and support. While Trump wants to give moms a $5,000 one-time check to boost the birth rate, Whitmer's program is comprehensive, sustained, and aimed at actually improving outcomes. RX Kids is actually being evaluated so we can become a national model. Whitmer has also been a strong ally for the LGBTQ community. She created Michigan's first ever LGBTQ commission. She signed executive directives banning conversion therapy and discrimination in the state government. She signed Senate Bill No. 4, which expanded Michigan's civil rights law to include gender identity. As for infrastructure, her slogan, "Fix the damn roads," became wildly popular.
As governor, I want to focus on the things that will actually make a difference in people's lives right now, like fixing the damn roads and doing it the right way, with the right materials, so they stay fixed.
Time to fix the damn roads. Fix the damn roads. It is time to fix the damn roads.
Her $3 billion Michigan Road Ahead plan hasn't fully passed yet, but her administration has repaired or replaced over 24,000 lane miles of roads, fixed 1,900 bridges, and created thousands of jobs. Now let's get into her vulnerabilities, because she does have a few. First, Israel and BDS. You have heard me talk about it in my J.B. Pritzker video and Shapiro videos. Well, here it is again. Whitmer has voiced strong support for Israel and has opposed the BDS movement, saying, "I strongly support the bipartisan anti-boycott legislation signed by Governor Rick Snyder." Now, I want to be clear. This is my personal opinion right now, but I think all anti-BDS legislation is unconstitutional. Boycotts are political expression protected under the First Amendment. The Supreme Court ruled in NAACP versus Claiborne Hardware in 1982 that peaceful boycotts are protected speech. So while Whitmer's stance might align with moderates, progressives will absolutely hammer her on this. Then there's the Oval Office moment from April earlier this year. She visited Washington, D.C. to advocate for Michigan, talking about auto jobs, military bases, the usual. She's a governor trying to get help for her state.
Why we're working so hard to make sure that, we work with the Army Corps and erect a barrier so that the Asian carp can't get into Lake Michigan. It'll devastate the ecosystem, the economy, tourism, and it's 20% of the world's fresh waters in the Great Lakes, Mr. President, which is why it's so important that as a nation we protect the pristine waters. Yep.
Trump called her into the Oval Office during a press event where he signed executive orders targeting his political opponents. She tried to shield her face with folders. The image went viral. Both sides pounced. Some saw it as cowardly, others as awkward.
As hard as she might try, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer isn't able to hide from the waves of backlash she is receiving over her recent Oval Office appearance.
She later said she regretted it, but the damage was done. It raised questions about how she handles conflict and confrontation, and in a national campaign, that's going to come back up. Then there's the COVID-era no-bid contract scandal. During the pandemic, her team awarded a contract to Every Action, an organization connected to Democratic groups, without a public bidding process. After public outcry, she canceled it, but the scandal was even included in articles of impeachment by the state GOP. Republicans in the general election could absolutely use this to argue favoritism or misuse of power. Frankly, I think it was just a little bit of bad judgment, but it wouldn't be hard to make an attack ad accusing her of corruption. Here's my take. Governor Gretchen Whitmer has done lots of good, especially when it comes to maternal health, healthcare access, and protecting the rights of the LGBTQ+ community. Her vision for supporting working families is innovative and bold. Honestly, in my opinion, she'd make an amazing Secretary of Health and Human Services. Definitely 10,000 times better than RFK. But for president? I'm not sure. I think her focus has been too myopic. She shines on healthcare and family policy, but she hasn't built a broad national identity yet. And those BDS laws, the COVID contract, and the viral Oval Office moment, they're going to stick. If you followed this series, you know I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. My money is still on J.B. Pritzker. He's not perfect. None of them are. But he's got the policy wins, actual progressive legislation, and he's got the media presence that makes him the most viable, at least in my opinion. And before anyone asks why Bernie Sanders wasn't in this series, look, I love Bernie. I campaigned for him in 2016. But he's 83 now, and he'd be 87 in 2028, and 91 after his first term. That's just not a winning formula, and I truly believe he's passed the torch to AOC. So there you have it, my top 5 with Pritzker at the top. If you haven't watched the other videos in this series, I highly recommend you go back and binge watch them all. The playlist is linked in the description, and I want to hear what you think in the comments below. Who is your pick for the 2028 Democratic nominee? And to my members, thank you so much for supporting the channel. You make these deep dives possible. Until next time, this is Brown Chubby Bear for Political Bear
Where the
Nation.
stories collide, political bears on an untamed ride, roaring through truths, the left and the right, setting the stage for a wild insight.